Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of the final Antares 230 rocket launching from Wallops Island in Virginia. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and here at TOP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're so glad to have you joining us here live as we count down T-minus 38 minutes and counting until launch. We've got our TOP crew helping us out with today's stream. We've got Jay over in the TLP network command center working on today's stream. I think I messed up that name. We're figuring out names, but we're glad to have you joining us here. We got people tuning in from all over the world. Let us know in the chat where you are watching from. Saw lots of people coming in here. Do some shout outs here. We got Richard is in New Orleans. We got David in Death Valley, California. We've got Daniel in South Bend, Indiana. David's from Michigan. We got BK Wolf in Seattle. We have Ginger, great to see you as always, from Lakewood, Washington. We got Ron's in Kansas City. Great to have so many of you joining us here today as we continue through tonight's countdown. Weather has improved to 90% go for today's launch, and we are glad to be able to hopefully see the final Antares of 2023 and the very last Antares of the 230 configuration launch of Cygnus up to the International Space Station. Now we're going to dive through everything we know about today's mission. NASA's going to get underway here in just a few minutes, and then we will listen into NASA Mission Control for the final bit of the countdown. But as always, if you want to know more about today's mission, you can head over to tlpnetwork.com. That's where we have our TLP launch control, where you can see our global launch calendar and see if we're going to have live coverage or not for those launches, as well as our detailed mission briefings. If you are a TLP member, first, thank you so much for your continued support as we continue to dream and expand new ways that we bring you the best possible coverage of everything space. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can hit that join button down below. You get some of the cool TLP emojis that we use during our countdowns, but also you get behind the scenes access here at the launch pad, as well as getting early access to get to see different things, and our members are getting to see early previews of the brand new tlpnetwork.com, our whole website, and in the coming weeks we'll also get to see teasers of our brand new iPhone and Android app as well. So if you're interested in becoming a member, hit that but you're here for a launch. We are counting down now T-minus 35 minutes, 50 seconds, and counting. If you guys have questions throughout today's stream, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our abilities. We're waiting for that live pad view to come online from NASA as we continue through the countdown here today, and once we have that, we will patch that in. Great to have so many joining us. We got Gavin is up in Daytona, part of our Rocket Chaser crew on the Space Coast. Kieran is in the UK. We got Eagle Eye in Idaho. I'm going to say this name wrong. Aquino Antonio? I'm saying that wrong, and I apologize, from Queens, New York. Thanks for being here. We got Joe Pilots in Hong Kong. We've got Staycation in St. Peters, Florida. Mike's in Buffalo. We got Eric in California, North Carolina. I saw lots of India in there. Lovish is from India. Great to have you. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth, all live right here on the launch pad, as well as our TLP weekly news show and our news updates, as well as our exclusive one-on-one interviews and tours. We got to go behind the scenes, being the first people into a brand new space company, getting to see their engine for the first time, and we can't wait to get to show that interview to you and that tour, and getting to see the engine and sitting down with their president and CTO to talk everything about this incredible new engine, but also some incredible new space planes. So make sure you stay tuned for that coming up in the coming weeks. We also have some more interviews coming, so definitely stay tuned for those. Members, you will be getting early access to most of those, so make sure you have joined the TLP Discord, linked your YouTubes, so you can follow along. That's all the YouTube stuff out of the way. Let's dive through what we know while we wait for NASA to get underway for today's launch coverage. But today's mission, as we said, is a Cygnus 230 Plus. It is the last launch of the 200 series of the Antares vehicle. It'll be launching from LP-0A at the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, and it will be carrying 3,785 kilograms or 8,300 pounds of cargo up to the International Space Station. Antares is not reusable, so it will crash into the Atlantic Ocean, and the fairings are not reusable either. Looking through some of the statistics for this mission, as we said, it's obviously the final launch of the Antares, so it's only the ones across the board for this year, but this is the 14th launch of the Antares 230 variant. It is the 19th launch from this pad, and it would be the 8th launch of the 230 plus variation of the Antares. Now, we will see Antares return. Currently, we're hearing that's coming for 2025, where they will be bringing out the new 330 variant of Antares that is currently in development, and that will hold off until we see the new medium lift vehicle come as a replacement to Antares a few years later. Now, this isn't the last Cygnus we will ever see. 3 Cygnuses will launch aboard Falcon 9 in the meantime until Antares 330 is ready. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of Cygnus CRS 2, the second contract of the cargo resupply for NG-19, or whatever everyone is calling it, the final Antares 230 launch, also known as SS Laurel Clark, in memory of one of the Space Shuttle Columbia astronauts. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us for tonight. It's a historic launch, seeing another vehicle retire from the history books as we enter this new era of space exploration and new era of more advanced technology and more capable rockets as we continue. We had a weather update a couple of hours ago. The weather has improved from 80% go to 90% go for launch. And looking at that weather status there, 23 degrees Celsius, really light winds out to the northeast. So great conditions to have a launch. We do have some of our TLP rocket chaser crews down on site. We have Sam and Jas down on location getting some photos and videos for today. So we're thrilled to have them on site. So make sure you stay tuned to our Twitter and our Discord. Not our Twitter. Stay tuned to our X and our Discord if you want to see photos and videos from our Rocket Chaser team of today's launch. Also, some of those may be available as posters and prints on the TLP shop. Side note about the shop, we found there was a slight bug for some of our international shipping things. So global shipping is truly now available for our friends that had some countries that had some limitations. That has been fixed, and you should be able to order for any country. So definitely take some time, check that out. Use promo code LaunchDay, gets you 10% off of everything in the store, and we appreciate your guys' generous support as we continue to count down for tonight's launch. NASA has gone live, so we are awaiting the stream to start, but we will, of course, patch that in once we have it. But yeah, global shipping now available. So we're excited to get that online. NASA is getting underway here, so we're going to listen into mission control as we count down to launch of the final Antares carrying Cygnus up to the International Space Station. Let's listen in.
Good evening. I am Gary Jordan with NASA Communications. This is Mission Control Houston, and thank you for joining us live for our coverage of Northrop Grumman's CRS-19 cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station, bringing 8,200 pounds of science and supplies to the orbiting laboratory to restock it for future science and operations. It's a beautiful day for launch over at Wallops Flight Facility. You're looking at a live view of the launch pad. That's Pad 0A at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport out at Wallops Island in Virginia. Beautiful day, 73 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. We're looking at launch shortly before sunset over at Wallops Island, tracking down to a T0 at 7:31 p.m. Central Time, 8:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks to all who are tuning into our live coverage this evening from coast to coast. Special shout out to those at the International Space Station Research and Development Conference. For those who are out there, it is thanks to you and your contributions towards science and the relationships that have been built at that conference to bring science on this mission and future missions. Looking forward to all of the collaborations that are made this year for some of the science that we can see in the future. Thanks for joining us. Again, the time of liftoff is 8:31 p.m. and 14 seconds Eastern Time. Everything on track, still tracking a 20% probability of violation. That's 80% go. Weather looks good, and the range looks good for a launch this evening. That 8:31 p.m. Eastern Time is the opening of a 5-minute launch window. We're launching this in August 2023, approaching the 10th anniversary of Cygnus 1, or Cygnus Orb D1, the demonstration flight of Cygnus, and the first time that Cygnus berthed with the International Space Station. That spacecraft was named after NASA astronaut George David Low. This spacecraft, CRS-19, is named the SS Laurel Clark. Northrop Grumman is proud to name the CRS NG-19 spacecraft in remembrance and celebration of the NASA astronaut. It is a company tradition to do so. Dr. Clark was an accomplished undersea medical officer and naval flight surgeon prior to her NASA career. During her first and only space flight, CST-107, Dr. Clark and the rest of the crew aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia tragically lost their lives on February 1st, 2003, when the shuttle did not survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Laurel Clark is remembered by the teams that are supporting this mission from coast to coast. There are 3 operations centers that are watching over the mission today here in Mission Control Houston. The International Space Station Flight Control Room, the destination of the Cygnus, once it separates from the Antares vehicle off of Pad 0A and makes its journey into orbit. We're watching and following along every step of the way. And of course, at the bottom of the screen there, you can see the 2 control centers that are looking after the vehicle you see on the pad at the Wallops Range Control Center. They're watching over the launch of Antares from Pad 0A over at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport. And then, of course, Northrop Grumman's Mission Operations Center in Dulles, Virginia, once Antares delivers Cygnus and the 8,200 pounds of cargo, including science and supplies, into orbit. It's a 9-minute ascent that Antares will take Cygnus into orbit. It'll be the folks you see there on the bottom left taking control of the vehicle through the flight to the International Space Station.
And then enabling our ME1, ME2, TVC, and EHA buses. All agencies currently reporting green.
T-minus 26 minutes and counting until the final launch of Cygnus from Launch Pad 0A at the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. If you're just joining us, welcome here. Take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we continue through today's count. You heard an update on the weather there. Now still at an 80% go for launch. We had seen that improve to 90% earlier, but still looking like a good launch opportunity coming up here earlier today. Actually, this camera is a great viewpoint. You can actually see the remote cameras right above that clock in the bottom left corner of your screen. Those little white tripods you see, that is where our TLP rocket chasers Sam and Jas have set up ahead of tonight's launch to hopefully be able to capture. That's one of the spots they were able to visit this morning.
The Antares rocket. On top of that is the Cygnus vehicle, CRS-19, delivering 8,200 pounds of cargo. Fueling is wrapping up here. By the time we get to T0, it will be completely filled. You can see the LOX venting happening on the side of the vehicle right now. That's the oxidizer. Antares uses RP1 kerosene propellant and the liquid oxygen oxidizer on the first stage. The second stage is a solid rocket motor. So that venting is part of the fueling process, and we'll continue to see that venting, the billowing of the cloudy smoke there on the side of the vehicle throughout the duration of the countdown to T0. Again, we're going down to 8:31 p.m. We're watching all of this from the International Space Station Flight Control Room. You can see it on the center of our screen. We're following along every step of the way, and we will continue to do so throughout the flight of Antares and the flight of Cygnus to the International Space Station. For launch, the teams here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room are led by Flight Director Marcos Flores. During the Orbit 3 shift, Marcos has the responsibility of the International Space Station and overseeing all the operations on board while the crew is in a sleep period. No Capcom today. If the crew needs anything during their sleep period, it'll be Marcos answering the call. The visiting vehicle officer is Ray Bijanes. It is his job here in Mission Control Houston to communicate with the teams that you saw earlier in Dulles, Virginia, the Northrop Grumman teams, and be working with them every step of the way to make sure Cygnus is making its incremental steps to rendezvous with the International Space Station for an on-time launch today. We're looking at a Friday morning rendezvous and berthing to the International Space Station. Ray will be watching the operations here for this leg of the trip.
LC Prop 2 in work.
Now, currently in a sleep period, though they may be waking up. It's midnight GMT aboard the International Space Station, but they could be tuning into this coverage. It is their sleep period, though, so they may be getting some well-deserved rest for the operations to capture and berth the Cygnus to the space station on Friday. From left to right, we have Frank Rubio, NASA astronaut, Dmitry Petelin of Roscosmos, Sultan Al-Nayati of the United Arab Emirates. We have Woody Hoberg there in the center frame, NASA astronaut. Right to his right is NASA astronaut Steve Bowen. Andrei Fedyaev is the Roscosmos cosmonaut to the right of Steve Bowen. And then rounding out the crew, the International Space Station's commander, Sergei Prokopyev. All 7 are on board the International Space Station right now, taken to the space station by a Crew Dragon and a Soyuz vehicle. Of this crew, it will be Woody Hoberg and Frank Rubio to perform the capturing operations for Cygnus on Friday.
Check 388, 389, and site control, step 391 to go to ARMTEL for rapid retract.
And in work, I'll report back in approximately 10 minutes when it's complete.
Copy that, site control.
LC Ops 1, TVC, and EHA buses enabled.
Roger, Ops 1, check 390.
Here you can see a graphic of the Cygnus spacecraft and the Antares launch vehicle in its stacked configuration. Again, Antares is a 2-stage rocket. It's got the liquid oxygen oxidizer and RP-1 kerosene fueled on the first stage. Second stage is a solid rocket motor, and of course Cygnus will be following along. The deployment of those ultraflex solar arrays happens about 2.5 hours after its insertion into orbit. Those will collect the power it needs to fuel its service module for the remainder of its flight to the International Space Station.
We need another minute or two. We need another minute or two.
Okay, copy that. Stage 1.
Cygnus has a late loading operations capability for the Antares 230 Plus. The top of the fairing has a pop-top fairing to allow late loading in this specialized facility here during the phase where the vehicle is horizontal. That pop-top fairing allows for any late loading capabilities. We did get word that the part of the late load was some frozen treats. That we tried to poke at what kind of frozen treats, whether it was ice cream or popsicles for the crew. It is a secret for the crew, so that was part of the late loading operations.
Ops 2 set stage 1 controller EPV VREFs.
LC Ops 2, stage 1 controller EPV VREFs has been set.
Copy that. And system, you go for step 399, coordinate final adjustment to payload ECS temp send point, report back when complete.
LC in work. LC system, countdown 1.
Go ahead, system.
Yeah, LC step 399 complete.
Copy, 399 complete. Launch team, we've just passed L-minus 20 minutes and counting.
Okay, you're hearing the countdown net over at Wallops Island. From the Wallops Range Control Center, going through the methodic milestones. We're 20 minutes away from launch. Everything's looking good as the vehicle transitions to internal power. While we wait and continue to flow through these milestones, we do have a special guest on the line with us to talk us through some of the things that are happening. First, we have Christina Halona, Antares Systems Engineering Program Manager at Northrop Grumman. Christina, do we have you?
Hi, Gary. Yes, you do have me. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and many thanks to everyone joining us today to see a successful Antares launch and Cygnus mission to the International Space Station.
Thanks for joining us, Christina. It's been a bit to get this vehicle in its position that we see now. Can you take us through what it took to get Antares into this vertical position, specifically the rollout?
Sure. This is Northrop Grumman's 19th mission, as you had stated before, and it definitely takes the entire Northrop Grumman team from Chandler, Arizona, and Dulles, Virginia, months and months to get the Antares 230 Plus vehicle ready for launch. It definitely starts with the vehicle being manufactured there at the Horizontal Integration Facility, which we call the HIF, at Wallops flight facility, and then we roll out the Antares rocket to the Pad 0A. It's definitely a rain or shine event. Thankfully, this week we rolled out Antares to Pad 0A, and where we have several engineers, about 20-ish, 30-ish people from various disciplines, and they all walk with the vehicle from the HIF to the pad. It takes the entire team are looking while they're walking out with the rocket. They're making sure that Antares stays level the entire way. We have a requirement where we have to stay within a 1 degree side-to-side requirement the entire rollout, and the whole process takes about 2 hours for Antares to make the trip from the HIF to the pad. And that's all due to the slow pace of the vehicle taking the vehicle on the truck, and we go a staggering 2 miles per hour. So as you can tell, it's 2 miles per hour is pretty slow. So, but we want to make sure we get it to the pad safely, and once it's there, we undergo some more testing on the vehicle, and then it's eventually loaded and then prepped for launch.
And it certainly did look like a beautiful day. You got really lucky with the rollout there. Awesome to see some of that footage. You know, this is not the first time you've done this, as you mentioned. It's been a while. You're coming up on 10 years since Cygnus's demo mission to the ISS, and more than 10 years since Antares' maiden flight on April 21st, 2013. When you look back at all that's been accomplished over these 10 years, what sticks out to you? You have 16 successful flights. You've been upgrading the Antares incrementally over these years. What really sticks out to you as you reflect on these past 10 years?
The one thing that Northrop Grumman is very happy to share is that Antares has carried approximately 130,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station, and our Cygnus spacecrafts in total have hauled away about 91,000 pounds of waste. So, like you said, over the years we've expanded the capabilities of Antares and Cygnus to increase our cargo capabilities. We perform late loads. We also offer reboost services and perform various secondary missions as well. So here at Northrop Grumman, we definitely understand the importance that the resupply missions are not only to NASA, but their astronauts and the critical research that we've done aboard the ISS. You know, there's been so much, advances of technology that have come from the research in space, and we're definitely honored to be a part of it and excited for all the missions to come, and this one for today, for sure.
Very good, and we're hearing some of the milestones in the background. The countdown is continuing. Cygnus's transition to launch mode. We're getting ready to send CRS-19 to the International Space Station, named the SS Laurel Clark. I wonder if this Cygnus, this vehicle, this mission, and the name have any personal significance to you, something that you tie very closely to this specific mission.
Hi, Gary. Yes, actually, I was an undergraduate student at Arizona State University when Dr. Laura Clark was picked to be an astronaut, and being a Navajo woman and studying aerospace engineering, along with countless other STEM, women around the world who were wanting to pursue their engineering degrees. It was Laurel. She was an astronaut. She was a medical doctor, a U.S. Navy captain, a space shuttle mission specialist, and the thing that was very special to me is that she was also a fellow astronaut Group 16 classmate of one of my mentors, who is a retired astronaut, Dr. John Harrington of the Chickasaw Nation, who was the first Native American in space. So she really had a tight a tight bond with her entire class, and just knowing that cousin really stuck out to me. And it's her incredible accomplished career and passion for the research in space that helped me cement my work in the aerospace industry. And it's been 20 years since Columbia's space shuttle tragedy, and where Laurel and 6 others of the astronauts lost their lives. And it's just been amazing to witness Dr. Clark's career achievements that took her career to under the sea and to the stars, basically. And she and the entire Columbia crew of the STS-107 continue to inspire future generations of explorers. And Northrop Grumman is proud to commemorate our NG-19 Cygnus spacecraft, the SS Laura Clark, for the NG-19 mission, where she has made a substantial contribution to the United States commercial space program and to human space flight. So we're very honored to have it named after her, and just a very special place in my heart for her and the entire crew of the STS-107.
And I think that special place is shared amongst the teams that are supporting this mission. Christina Helona, thank you so much for joining us for the launch show, and we're continuing down towards the T0 here at 8:31. Thank you for coming on, Christina.
Of course, thank you.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. T-minus 12 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until the final Antares 230 plus rocket launches from Launch Pad 0A at the Wallops Flight Center in Virginia. Looking at a live view from the base of the pad up towards the payload fairing. Inside is the Cygnus cargo spacecraft heading up to the International Space Station. This is the final Antares 230 plus variant of this rocket, and it won't be until 2025 that the Antares 330 is ready. Today's rocket does have parts. These are the final parts from Russia and the Ukraine, so marking an end, as Antares following this will be entirely made in the United States, wrapping up another era of type of international rocket development. But it'll be interesting to see what 330 looks like when it comes out to the pad in a couple years' time from now. As we continue through the countdown, T-minus 11 minutes, 35 seconds and counting to launch, we are listening in to NASA Mission Control. The weather, from what we've checked again, is 90% go. It's looking pretty good, a little overcast, but hopefully we will have some fantastic views of the launch. We do have our TOP rocket chaser Sam and Jas out on site, so we're excited to be able to show you some photos and videos from them via X and Discord following the launch, so make sure you follow us both on those. It is a launch day, so of course make sure you head on over to the TOP Network shop. Use promo code LAUNCHDAY. You can get 10% off of everything over on the shop, and we're super excited that global shipping is now online and available, so definitely take some time, check that out. We have some new gear for the ISRO Chandrayaan-3 mission, which we are of course also tracking. It completed a successful lunar transfer injection and is now on a 3-day journey to lunar orbit interface. Basically, in 2 days, 18 hours, we expect it to burn, entering lunar orbit and beginning a about 18-day long journey ahead of actual lunar landing. As we come down just under T-minus 10 minutes, 30 seconds and counting, we're going to listen back into NASA Mission Control. Keep sending in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. And make sure you take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream on social media and in Discords to invite people to join us as we count down to the final launch of the Cygnus Antares mission of the Antares 230 plus rocket variant from Wallops Flight Center in Virginia. Let's listen in to Mission Control.
So in the final 10 minutes of this countdown, we'll be following along through the milestones to get Antares prepared for launch. Some of the ones coming up to listen out for, in particular, at T-minus 5, Antares switches to internal power. Cygnus at this time is switched to its launch mode. T-minus 3 minutes 30 seconds is an auto-sequence handoff to terminal count. Computers, but at this point, will take over for the final steps through launch. And at T-minus 40 seconds, the tanks are pressurized for engine ignition at T0. We're tracking down to 8:31 and 14 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
LC MES1, vacuum verified in the fuel circuits.
Okay, MES1, I copy that. We'll check 416 complete.
Live shots of the liquid rocket engines that will mix RP-1 kerosene and liquid oxygen.
To go to enable ACS VDMs.
LC Ops 1, ACS VDMs internal power on.
LC Elect 1, ACS VDMs enabled, voltage nominal, ODM commands are clear.
Copy, Elect 1. We can check step 417 and 418.
A little bit about what to expect for Antares Ascent. It's a two-stage rocket, so the liquid oxygen or the liquid propellant will burn on the first stage for about approximately 3 minutes 18 seconds until main engine cutoff, and then enter into a coast stage with first stage separation about 3 minutes 24 seconds and fairing separation at 3 minutes 54 seconds. There's an interstage separation, and then the stage 2 ignition after 4 minutes. And this stage 2 is a solid rocket motor that burns for 2 minutes and 44 seconds. After another coast period, the spacecraft will separate from the second stage shortly after 9 minutes to insert Cygnus into orbit.
Admin copy.
LC, top Libya, 421, VTSO activation verified.
Copy that. Check 421. Ops 2, initialize ground ordnance power supplies.
Ground ordnance power supplies initialized.
LC Elect 1, ground ordnance power supplies are nominal.
Copy that. Elect 1, check 422 and 423.
T-minus 6 minutes and counting. The sun is setting on the east coast there. Antares and Cygnus illuminated by the floodlights on the launch pad. That's pad 0A at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport.
Initiated. Time 002503.
Copy that. Check 425 complete.
And CMD, step 413, Cygnus is launch mode and nominal.
Copy that, CMD. Site control, can I get a call on 424?
You can, LC. I can confirm at the ECS transfer to GN2.
Copy that. Check 424 complete.
5 minutes, 15 seconds. Cygnus, inside the fairing that you see at the top of the rocket there behind the American flag, is configured for launch.
Ops 2 LC, step 426. You go to initiate engine priming.
Engine priming started.
Copy that. Ops 1, transfer avionics to internal power.
LC Ops 1, all internal power on, all external power off.
LC Elect 1, internal tower nominal.
Ops 1, open FTS UMBI loop.
FTS UMBI loop open and green.
FTLU and STS receiver indications are nominal.
Ops 1, you go to send all arm command.
LC Ops 1, all arm command sent.
LC Elect 1, safe and arms, and ODMs are all armed.
NASA TD, report range status.
Range is green.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. T-minus 3 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. You heard there, all systems are go and range is green as we enter the final countdown for the final Antares 230 plus rocket launching from launch pad 1A at Wallops Flight Center in Virginia, carrying Cygnus up to the International Space Station. As always, here at the launch pad, we do that final go, no go in the chat. So let's see that. Make sure you take a moment, share the stream out, invite people to join us as we count down the final last launch of Antares. From the entire TLP crew, we wish everyone that has worked on the Antares program congratulations. One final launch. It's going to be fantastic, but an incredible rocket ending another era of U.S. space exploration, but not the full end of Antares, as Antares 330 will be back in a couple of years, but ending this version of Antares. But as we now are under 3 minutes and counting, let's listen back into the mission control net for the final launch of Antares 230 from Wallops Island in Virginia.
Copy, Elect 1, be advised you're coming in faint.
ODM bus voltages and currents are nominal.
Copy that. Check 438 and 439, and GNC1, verify ready for nav mode.
LC GNC1, ready for nav.
Copy that. Ops 2, switch to nav.
LC Ops 2, switched to nav.
Check 441.
LC GNC1, nav mode verified.
Copy that. We'll check 442, and we're at T-minus 2 minutes and counting. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Lift off the Antares NG-19 launch vehicle from the Wallops facility.
Antares taking Northrop Grumman's Commercial Resupply Mission 19 into orbit to the International Space Station. Flight controllers reporting a nominal ascent for Antares.
Attitude nominal. Pressurization is nominal. Engines remain at 100% thrust and steady.
T plus 1 minute into flight, the final Antares has launched from Wallops under Russian engines, continuing through a nominal flight, beginning Cygnus's journey to the International Space Station. You can hear into mission control.
Vehicle passing through max Q.
Max Q has been called. Maximum
Next is the
aerodynamic
maximum
pressure.
dynamic pressure experienced on Antares.
Core pressurization valves are nominal. Engines remain nominal and steady. LCA, your go.
Godspeed, Antares.
Thank you, LCA. Halfway through the burn, 100 seconds to MECO, passing to 30,000 feet.
Attitude nominal.
Attitude remains nominal. Engine remains nominal, steady at 100%. Passing through 5,000 feet per second. Core pressurization remains nominal. Electrical power is nominal. TVC remains nominal. Engines remain nominal. Electrical power is nominal. Core position is nominal. We're approximately 40 seconds from MECO. Slow throttle down has begun.
Attitude nominal.
TVC preset down slew has started. Attitude remains nominal.
3 minutes into the flight of Antares, we got about 15 seconds until main engine cutoff.
Rapid throttle down, steady 55% thrust. And we have main engine cutoff. Ellis is taking care of business. We have stage separation.
Switching to animation with confirmed stage separation as we lose Antares into the clouds on this hazy evening.
Enabled.
ACS is enabled.
Stage 2 ignition time expected at mission time 2:46.
Stage 1 ignition expected approximately stage 2 ignition expected in approximately 10 seconds. Fairing is separated.
Antares currently in a coast phase.
Stage 2 ignition and TVC battery is nominal.
Second stage solid rocket motor has ignited.
Power remains nominal.
The stage will burn for 2 minutes and 44 seconds.
The Caster 30XL will burn for approximately 2.5 minutes. Power remains nominal. Stage 2 TVC is nominal.
Flight controllers reporting good performance on the second stage.
Power remains nominal. TVC remains nominal in stage 2. And power is nominal. We are approximately 100 seconds from stage 2 burnout.
Attitude still nominal.
Attitude remains nominal. TBC is performing nominally. Power remains nominal. Stage 2 TBC remains nominal. Power is nominal. TBC remains nominal. 50 seconds to stage 2 burnout. TBC, electrical power remain nominal. TBC and power remain nominal. Beginning to tail off in motor pressure, and we have stage 2 burnout.
Six minutes, 55 seconds into the flight. The second stage solid rocket motor has burned out.
ACS enabled. Or
ACS payload enabled.
We're now entering about approximately a 2-minute coast phase.
Antares is in orbit and will coast for roughly 100 seconds prior to payload separation.
Seven minutes, 45 seconds into the flight of Antares. After spacecraft separation, it will take approximately 2 hours, 30 minutes until the solar arrays are unfurled to start collecting power for the Cygnus vehicle. Shortly after spacecraft separation, we'll have a representative from the International Space Station program online to provide some comments on the flight of Antares and some comments on Cygnus's journey to the International Space Station. We'll plan to wrap our coverage shortly after orbital insertion, but please stay tuned for updates online on the solar array unfurl. Spacecraft separation is coming up on 30 seconds.
Power remains nominal. Vehicle continues to coast prior to payload separation. And we have payload separation.
And the flight control teams confirm the visuals you're seeing here on the animation. Cygnus has separated from the Antares second stage, flying free and beginning its journey to the International Space Station.
All right, launch team, LC on Countdown Net. We're going to go ahead and proceed with our post-launch checklist. We've confirmed that we've had Cygnus separation. Congratulations to the Cygnus team, and that sound you heard a little earlier was a mic drop.
You're getting a live view of the Wallops Range Control Center. This is the team that was overseeing the launch of Antares from Pad 0A over at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. Well, Antares 230 Plus has launched for the final time from the Wallops Flight Center in Virginia, and Cygnus is on its way to the International Space Station, docking set to occur around, beginning coverage around 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Of course, we will bring you live coverage of that docking right here on the launch pad. You're looking at a live view into the mission control centers at Houston, at Northrop Grumman, and at Wallops as they celebrate the final launch of Antares and the final Cygnus on an Antares for the next couple of years. We have 3 more Cygnuses scheduled. They will now fly on Falcon 9s. We see one every about 6 months, and then when Antares 330 comes online, we expect to see Cygnus fly on Antares again. But the Cygnus spacecraft for the CRS-2 contract NG-19 on its way to the International Space Station. If it was your first time here, make sure you take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview right here at the launch pad. Taking a look at a live view of the International Space Station currently passing over the Pacific Ocean. So a little bit different than what we see with crew launches or Cargo Dragon, where they launch basically with the ISS right over top. Over the next few days, the Cygnus will do a series of maneuvers to catch up to the International Space Station and prepare for berthing. As always, if you haven't yet, take a moment also and join our TLP Discord. That's where the TLP community hangs out in between launches, and we invite you to be part of that community because ultimately, space is better together.
The manager of the Systems Engineering and Integration Office and the International Space Station program based here in Houston. Jeff, how do you hear us?
Loud and clear. Gary, how do you hear me?
Hey, loud and clear. Thank you for joining us, Jeff, and providing some remarks. We just saw Antares deliver 8,200 pounds of cargo, including science and supplies, to the into orbit, and it's on its way to the International Space Station. I'm curious, from your perspective, from the International Space Station program perspective, what are some of the key highlights of science, hardware, something on this vehicle, something on this mission that you're particularly looking forward to arriving at the International Space Station?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think 3 come to my mind pretty quick. The first would be this is the final iteration of the Sapphire series of spacecraft fire protection experiments, and so that's flying on this flight. That's been a really interesting set of experiments, and we've learned a tremendous amount, to be honest with you. The second, I think, we're flying some neural cells that will be cultured in 3D cell models for gene therapy testing. The experiment is called Neuronics. Gene therapy shows promise, but the 3D models needed to test these therapies do not form in Earth's gravity, so creating these 3D cell cultures in microgravity could provide a critical platform for drug discovery and gene therapy testing, so really, really cool stuff. The last would be we're actually flying a new potable water dispenser. We're actually calling it our Exploration Portable Water Dispenser. It provides hot water and improves sanitation for the crew's use. This will double the number of water dispensers that we have on board and certainly speed up meal preparation because I think, as you know, and most of our listeners know, because rehydration is required for so many of the crew's meals, having one dispenser, I'm sure, takes a while for meal prep. So I'm sure the crew will be very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm sure if they had any direction into what gets installed first, I'm sure they would choose that one just so they can get a couple of snacks early.
Absolutely.
Jeff, we're coming up on 10 years since Cygnus won with Orbital Sciences in September of 2013. When Cygnus berthed first to the International Space Station for a demonstration mission. Now we're 10 years into it. We're talking about the Commercial Resupply Service's 19 mission. So if you reflect on the past decade, what can you say about the impact of commercial cargo operations for International Space Station and continuing to support the operations?
Yeah, in a word, I'd say essential. Critically essential. I don't think that's almost redundant, but with the retirement of the Space Shuttle, we lost our capability to resupply the ISS. And cargo resupply from U.S. companies is critical to our mission. I can't emphasize that enough. It ensures our national capability to deliver critical hardware, science research, significantly increases the ability of NASA to conduct new investigations. Other U.S. government agencies, private industry, and academic and research institutions can also conduct microgravity research through our partnership with the International Space Station National Laboratory. But again, in a word, it's absolutely essential.
It's essential for the operations and continuing operations. I think for this particular mission, there's also a sentimental value to it. And as you know, Cygnus spacecraft get named after significant contributors to human spaceflight. And this one is named after Laurel Clark, who tragically lost her life aboard Space Shuttle Columbia in 2003. And it can be a reminder of the risks of human spaceflight and the work that has been done over the past 20 years to continuously improve mission safety and assurance. So after today's successful launch and you reflect on the risks of human spaceflight, what can you say about maintaining a level of vigilance and NASA's role in working with private companies to ensure lessons in safety are shared and implemented?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, you know, my hat's off to Laurel and her entire crew. And you know, we'll never forget those guys. You know, focusing on the fact that safety is a top priority at NASA and the lessons learned are deeply embedded in our culture. We share our lessons learned with the younger generations as they enter the workforce, and we work collaboratively with our commercial partners to ensure the lessons are passed on and openly shared and implemented to ensure our future success in human spaceflight. The other thing I'd add is, following the Columbia accident, NASA formalized an additional level of diligence by defining institutional technical authorities for safety, engineering, and crew health. These senior engineers and doctors work to ensure all concerns are heard and work to resolution, not only for NASA hardware, but in an ever-expanded role to ensure our lessons learned are shared with both our commercial and international partners. You know, what we do is not easy, and yeah, you just got to keep your nose down.
Powerful words, Jeff, and I think it's a testament to the success of this launch. It makes it looks easy that we just lift off the pad and go into orbit, but certainly a lot of work was put into it. Jeff Aaron, thank you so much for joining us for today's coverage and providing these remarks. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gary. Appreciate it.
That was Jeff Aaron, Manager of Systems Engineering and Integration Office at the International Space Station Program. With that, we will begin concluding our coverage for today's launch. Again, Cygnus is in orbit after a successful orbital insertion by the Antares launch vehicle, and it will make its journey to the International Space Station, rendezvousing Friday for a capture and berthing. You can tune into our coverage then. On Friday morning, we'll begin our coverage at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're expecting the capture by the robotic arm controlled by Woody Hoberg, the prime robotic arm operator, and backed up by Frank Rubio at 5:55 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:55 a.m. Central Time on Friday, August 4th.
And there we have it. Cygnus officially on its way to the International Space Station. If you want to stay up to date on all upcoming launches, head on over to tlpnetwork.com/launches. That's where you can see our TLP global launch calendar to stay up to date on all of those launches and whether we will have live launch coverage or not. But everything seems to have gone nominally with the final Antares launch, and Cygnus is on its way to the International Space Station. The times are on your screen. That's when NASA will begin their coverage. We'll go live a little bit earlier than that, and if we do get TLE data from the U.S. Space Command, we will look at trying to bring on a live tracker as well, tracking Cygnus on its journey to the International Space Station. Space Station currently coming up, actually just about to make a pass over the TLP Canada studio, heading down towards the east coast of Florida, across that Terminator line of day and night. But that is going to do it for us here today from the TLP Canada studio. Thank you so much for joining us for our live launch coverage of the final Antares 230 Plus rocket launching from Launch Pad 0A at the Wallops Flight Center in Virginia. If it was your first time here, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview right here on the launch pad. And from the TLP Canada studio, we will see you next time, because space is better together. Bye-bye.